And we're live. Aha. Hello, folks. Just pause a wee minute or two early just to see everything's working okay. We've got a new microphone tonight, so we're just doing a wee testing, 1, 2, 3 kind of thing to make sure everything's all right. We've had some issues with our video and audio for a while. Excuse me. And we've pretty much done everything except swap out equipment. So, I've got a brand new microphone. Hopefully it's working okay. I've got it on the same settings as the previous microphone. And if this doesn't improve anything, that's got to be something either electrical or to do with my internet service provider, you know. Pardon me. But yeah, tonight, just to let anybody know who's out there, and say hello if you're already here, we're going to be running from 10 o'clock on Thursdays from now on. It's just a bit of an easier time to manage. And give me time to sort of run about and get something to eat, this kind of thing, without being in a mad, sort of just a mad dash everywhere. Just because of my working week at the minute, I've only kind of got a day and a half to get this done now. Pardon me, whereas I used to have 2 full days on it. So we're just trying to manage it a wee bit. Tonight we're only going to be doing chapter 9. By the way, I had sort of promised to do chapter 9 and chapter 10. But unfortunately, as I said, we're just with life being busy, and I'm still wheezy, by the way, which is incredibly annoying because, pardon me, in all honesty, I'm fine most of the day, and almost always before as I start doing this, I start coughing and spluttering for some reason. Pardon me, I can just get a wee drink of honey there. So there's 10 o'clock. Anyway, folks, I'll say hello. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm Doc Sloan. Welcome to the Doghouse on my science fiction station here on YouTube. And tonight we're going to be looking at chapter 9 of Children of Dune. And it's a great wee chapter, by the way, I think. Pardon me. And if you bear with me for a minute or two, hopefully I'll stop coughing and spluttering and we can get on with things, you know, as usual. There's Bojack Harkness saying, I'll be on as long as there's power. Category 3 hurricane about to wallop us. Right, yes, indeed, Bojack, look after yourself. Goodness gracious. And Julian Thompson saying, hiya, Julian, how's it going? Pardon me. And there's Carlos Crucelia saying, hey, Doc, and guys. Hello, folks. Julian, I'm still getting your work read, but I'll get in touch with you quite soon about it, hopefully. I'm planning to do a whole chunk of reading this week. Just what I've been at, really, in terms of reading. I'm still on First Lensman at the minute. Obviously reading Children of Dune, and I've been reading a wee bit of Herodotus, and I've been reading, what's it called? Is it Fire and Blood? Is that it? The George R.R. Martin history kind of thing that goes with pardon me, the Dance of the Dragons, that kind of thing. So that's what I've been reading at the minute. And I've started to sort of going slowly at the Lensman books, starting to sort of push into them a bit, going a bit quicker at them, you know. Pardon me. So I'm hoping to finish First Lensman the next day or two and start off with I suppose the first in the publication order of the Lensman series, which is the Galactic Patrol. So I'm looking forward. I was quite surprised to see that both Triplanetary and the First Lensman written quite some time after the first publication of the First Lensman book. You know, Fire and Blood is great. Got me back into GRRM. Yeah, Julian, that's same myself actually. You know, and funnily enough, as I was saying to you, and we're going to be having a wee bit of a chat, by the way, about a few things. You're probably going to like this as well, Julian. We're going to have a chat about a couple of people from the ancient world soon. But Cynthia had sent me some stuff on Semiramis, so we're going to have a wee natter about her probably by the next time we come to Alia. Though some of that character is probably relevant in a wee bit today to Wensicia. Pardon me. And yeah, kind of the next time we hit oracles, that kind of thing. I've got a few wee things from Herodotus. But what was interesting, Julian, just in terms of it's been a while since, what was the last one I read? Goodness gracious, that enormously. What was it? The last thing I read was probably Dance of the Dragons. Was that it? Um, can't remember. I've got all of those up there, and I think I read the was it the Tales of Duncan Egg, whatever book that was in. Maybe that's it. I can't remember. But yes, it was good to get back into that. I'm not that heavy into George R. Martin, but I got I was our singer was quite familiar with his book, so whenever Game of Thrones came on, she recommended them, so I started reading them then. Excuse me. But in fact, it was my kind of first return to fantasy in a long, long time. But yeah, good that he likes a good dense story, doesn't he? I wonder is he going to get it finished? What was interesting, Julian, just was about it was kind of reading it as that it's obviously presented as a history. Was just some of the similarities to Herodotus' histories. I thought was quite interesting. But there we go. Let me just get our book here. So the other thing, just folks, I am trying to settle into a pattern of work where we can try and get this thing done regularly, so that people know when we're going to be online, pretty much. So we're hoping to keep the Thursdays at 10 o'clock, and I'm looking for another time in the week as well. But I want to make sure I pick something that sort of suits me and is easy to kind of keep up, if you like. And it was the other thing is once I've got a whole chunk of reading and correspondence to deal with, hopefully this weekend, is that I'm intending to sort of get the head down and I'm going to pile at it and try and produce a bunch of content for the station. I'm not going to say anything else because life keeps interrupting me in many ways, and sometimes it's hard to work to any kind of deadline here, especially with the book club going, which takes up a lot of work. But we're hoping to drop a chunk of content, hopefully before Halloween. So we'll not say anything more, but a bit of a mix of stuff anyway. Some fun things, hopefully, and something informative, and possibly, hopefully something. Well, I was saying I wouldn't say, but hopefully something June related as well, because we'd kind of made a few promises to work at certain things that we haven't got around to over the last couple of years. And I think it's time to start getting cracking with this kind of stuff. Julian Thompson saying Fire and Blood has the same appeal as the metafictional aspects of Dune. The in-world history texts of the Meister remind me of Irulan, Farad'n, and others like Harry Benotto. Yes, indeed. There was a couple of wee things actually that we would looked at the other week. Oddly enough, talk about housekeeping. We were discussing symbols. You just reminded me of it, Julian, and it was to do with. I was trying to find this wee passage the other week, but couldn't find it. I highlighted it within June rather than jumping back, but it was just, and it's actually relevant to the stuff that we're reading at the minute, just in terms of the epigraphs. They have that historical bent to them, but some of them are discussing the Commission of Ecumenical Translators, this kind of thing. And the previous one we had was from the Revised Orange Catholic Bible. The one before that was from the commentaries from the CET itself. So it was just to point out that this was from just in relation to symbols. And this is from the appendices of Dune. This is from the second appendix of Dune entitled The Religion of Dune. And we're going to get a little bit of stuff from this actually in this chapter today. But it was in relation to symbols. Oddly enough, CET Chairman Torre Bamako, ulema of the Zen Sunnis and one of the 14 delegates who never recanted the 14 sages of popular history, appeared to admit finally that CET had erred. And this is the bit that I was talking about that I was looking for. We shouldn't have tried to create new symbols, he said. We should have realized we weren't supposed to introduce uncertainties into accepted belief, that we weren't supposed to stir up curiosity about God. We are daily confronted by the terrifying instability of all things human, yet we permit our religions to grow more rigid and controlled, more conforming and oppressive. What is this shadow across the highway of divine command? It is a warning that institutions endure, that symbols endure when their meaning is lost, and that there is no summa of all attainable knowledge. Just to go on here, just skipping a little bit, but it's pleasant to think that Bamoko understood the prophecy in his words, institutions endure. 90 generations later, the Orange Catholic Bible and the commentaries permeated the religious universe. When Paul Muad'Dib stood with his right hand on the rock, with his right hand on the rock shrine, enclosing his father's skull, the right hand of the blessed, not the left hand of the damned. He quoted word for word from Bamoko's legacy. You who have defeated us to say yourselves that Babylon is fallen and its works have been overturned, I say to you still that man remains on trial, each man in his own dock, each man is a little war. So there we go. That was just that wee bit about symbols. And there's actually quite a lot. I find myself running through that again. And just to conclude that point, I suppose, in terms of symbols and things like that, it says here at the end of that appendix, what matter that you must make the sign of the fist as a misprint, we must have found this one, by the way. It says, what matter that you must make the sign of the fist when first you see first moon. That's a definite mistake in this book, isn't it? What matter that you must make the sign of the fist when first you see first moon. It's one of those that we found. God, that's great, isn't it? What matter that you must make the sign of the fist when first you see the first moon, or when you see the first moon. A man's flesh is his own, and his water belongs to the tribe. And the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. Omens help you remember this, and because you're here, because you have the religion, victory cannot evade you in the end. And of course, that ends with the famous, when religion and politics ride the same cart, when the cart is driven by a living holy man, a baraka, nothing can stand in their path. So that was, I just wanted to read that again, folks, just there, because we have been chatting about, it had come up within this the symbols, and especially where we ended the previous chapter with Paul pulling out this desiccated, desert mummified hand. And he calls it the hand of God. Of course, the symbol for Paul's reign is the clenched fist with the fish. Pardon me. And he said, I speak for the hand of God, I am the preacher, etc., etc. So it was just in relation to that, and the symbol, obviously the hand, is meant to represent, I was thinking about this a wee bit myself. I'm not sure what you guys think. Just from the previous chapter, all the agency and might and power of Paul's empire and his religion, in that sense, and him himself, and that this is what he presents. And again, we had the point where some of the people in the crowd were wondering, is that, was that the hand of Muad'Dib, etc.? And I suppose the questions come up as to whose hand it is, but it's a symbol, isn't it? So there we go. I just wanted to quickly catch up with that, folks, because we'd mentioned it and I couldn't find it just offhand the previous week, and I said I would just grab it there and make sure that we had it ready for this week. So we're going to start off with epigraph number 9. Sorry, it doesn't say as, but that's what I call it anyway. And this chapter, by the way, I've entitled it, as much as the chapters don't really have any titles, I've called this one The Lesson of the Levenbrech, which basically features Wensicia and one of her main military aide, if you like, a guy called Tyekanik. Excuse me. So I'm having a losing battle with the etymology at the minute. We've got a couple of names that I haven't kind of managed to figure out, and Tyekanik is one. I have a Gerard here as well. Not again, just to point out that Frank usually picks names for a reason. If you see what I mean, there tends to be a reason for names like that. So we have Gerard as well, and then from the previous chapter. So yeah, I've got a bunch of names. Assam Tariq, wasn't it? We had that I haven't quite got anything on yet. So I'm just making a wee note. That's starting to bug me, and I wonder. I suppose it's interesting. I need to kind of try and figure out some source material for Frank for Children of Dune. I'll have to go nosing, because we've done very well so far. But have a bit to learn about some South American myths, I think, um, which might help. Particularly, I'm going to try and look into the Jacurutu myth and a couple of the individual deities, I think, named in it, and see what they're about. So here we have that. We've got quite a lengthy epigraph here to start with, folks. This is from the Pedant Heresy, we're told. Bear with me a wee second. Let's throw that out. Oh, I've got an out cushion here because this chair is the most uncomfortable thing. But the cushion's not much better. There we go. I'm at a slightly different height. Right, let's see. So quite a lengthy epigraph. Let's get to it. It is commonly reported, my dear Gerard, that there exists great natural virtue in the melange experience. Perhaps this is true. There remains within me, however, profound doubt that every use of melange always brings virtue. Meseems that certain persons have corrupted the use of melange in defiance of God. In the words of the Ecumenon, they have disfigured the soul. They skim the surface of melange and believe thereby to attain grace. They deride their fellows, do great harm to godliness, and they distort the meaning of abundant gift maliciously. Surely a mutilation beyond the power of man to restore. To be truly at one with the virtue of the spice, uncorrupted in all ways, full of goodly honor, a man must permit his deeds and his words to agree. When your actions describe a system of evil consequences, you should be judged by those consequences and not by your explanations. It is thus that we should judge Muad'Dib. Now, I think that's a particularly important epigraph there. There's all sorts within this. But in particular, I suppose, first of all, we've got it's a very interesting statement, isn't it? That there's great natural virtue in taking this drug, melange, and virtue. There's a goodness there. And that language, by the way, in this epigraph is perhaps this is true. Last week I was pointing out that the previous chapter had a feel of a historian and a different historian, and the reason why was the language within the chapter. We pointed out previously that there was 3 sets of perhapses within in relation to the preacher, if you like, speculations by the writer of the previous chapter. Perhaps it was the preacher's choice of words, perhaps it was his tone, perhaps it was only the inherent mysticism of the place. So we've got this. It's just interesting that it's the same language here. Pardon me again. That perhaps this is true. It's it's interesting. Again, it's interesting to speculate on who are the writers, who are the historians of the Dune series, both within individual books and the whole thing. Something that bugs me. I spend quite a bit of time thinking about it, to be honest with you. So, commonly reported, my dear Jared, sounds like an assistant or a scribe or something, that there exists great natural virtue in the melange experience. Perhaps this is true. So it's suggestive that person maybe hasn't experienced this, but there remains within me, however, profound doubt. So I don't believe that every single use of melange always brings virtue, always brings a good thing. Every use of melange always bringing virtue is an absolute. Isn't it something that Frank likes to warn us about? And it seems that certain persons have corrupted the use of melange in defiance of God. So that's a religious aspect to that, and we wonder who are the certain persons, I suppose. In the words of the Ecumenon, okay, so again, I think this is relating to the CET, the Commission of Ecumenical Translators. They have disfigured the soul, and again, that's a quotation. It lines up with the CET, the whole idea that bear with me a wee second. We have this a wee bit may not replaced. Yes, here it is. Again, this is from the appendix. Just jumping back to Dune, folks, quickly to remind us of these things. This is just in relation to this. Out of the first ecumenical meetings came two major developments: the realization that all religions had at least one common commandment: thou shalt not disfigure the soul. And of course, two was the commission of ecumenical translators. So there we go. That's what came out of that, and that we have that's a reference to that as well. I think they've disfigured the soul, and this is something that came out of the first ecumenical meetings that eventually leads to the development of the CET, which ultimately leads to the creation of the Orange Catholic Bible, if you like. Ecumon is a Greek word. We've talked about it before. Here we go. Oikomenon. Oikomeni. There we go. That's it. And it's an interesting phrase. It's one of those really interesting words. What it means is the inhabited earth. Isn't that a good one? Now, that's it in Greek. Moves in the modern term comes from the late Latin. Doing the etymological work, but I've done this before actually, so I just had to look it up. It means belonging to the universal church, if you like. So in the words of this is the people who use melange. Certain people have corrupted the use of melange in defiance of God, and they have disfigured the soul. They skim the surface of melange and believe thereby to attain grace. So what they're saying is they barely just, the merest hint of what to do with this stuff, and think that will give them religious grace, if you like. There's a religious aspect to this quotation. They deride their fellows, do great harm to godliness, and they distort the meaning of the abundant. Now, they distort the meaning of abundant gift maliciously, surely a mutilation beyond the power of man to restore. So I'm pretty certain I've written here there must be a missing word there. And they distort the meaning of abundant gift maliciously. Surely a mutilation. It might not be. It just doesn't seem to flow. The meaning of abundant gift maliciously. Could be okay, I think. I wonder, has anybody got a copy with an extra word there? Possibly to help that sound a bit better. It makes sense to me the way it is, but it's just the flow of it, if you see what I mean. And then we get, I suppose we get this representation. It's almost in three parts, isn't it? A representation that taking melange and experiencing the use of this drug is a virtuous experience. However, there's people who mess around with this and make it ungodly, etc., etc. And then we get the advice, I suppose, at the end of it, to be truly one with the virtue of the spice, uncorrupted in all ways, full of goodly honor. A man must permit his deeds and his words to agree. So what you say has got to line up with what you do. When your actions describe a system of evil consequences, you should be judged by those consequences and not by your explanations. It is thus we should judge Muad'Dib. And we could probably judge Wensicia in this chapter as well. But indeed, it's a very important point, particularly with Muad'Dib, with Paul Atreides. As we've been doing this book club, we've been keeping a track on certain things as our main protagonist and our hero. We can't really ignore them, can we? The empire of Muad'Dib is as evil as the one that preceded it, and the body count, within the first 12 years of Paul's reign is outrageous, isn't it? It's and we've also pointed out that as we go through the books that people are just people, little people, armies, etc., etc. Especially whenever they die in vast numbers. It's just they're just numbers, I suppose. It's a very impersonal thing, but it's a very interesting epigraph. And we're getting a little bit of and it's interesting. This is from the pedant history, by the way. So we have a historian at work here, and my own opinion is that the historian who wrote this is the historian who wrote the previous chapter, if that makes sense. Although the epigraph to the previous chapters from the Orange Catholic Bible is in relation to what the second beast of the apocalypse from the revelation of St. John, etc. So there we go. There's Joseph Smith, Jim Fancy and Heidi, and Joseph Smith saying, "You okay, Bojack?" And Connor Quinn go, "You Doc and all. Hi Connor, how's it going? Hi Joseph." Connor Quinn said that would be an ecumenical matter. It would indeed. Yes. Very good. I love that episode. Anybody who doesn't get the reference, is that episode called "The Passion of St. Tibulus" or something like that? I think I can't remember, but it's a Father Ted. It's a joke from Father Ted about you can answer any questions by priests, isn't that right? Something like that with either the word yes. That's how they train Father Jack to speak to these bishops, isn't it? Or that would be an ecumenical matter. Frank was fond of them, I hear. He was indeed. We were just watching a bit of Connor. We're trying to figure out some TV and stuff at the moment to watch, but we were watching a bit of Father Ted the other day. Haven't seen it in a Tentacles of Doom. Is that it? Thank you. That was great stuff. I've got them on DVD somewhere, but the computer I have here doesn't have a DVD player. A disc player, I have to get one for it, actually. It's kind of stupid. But yes, indeed, ecumenical matters. And I suppose we have an interest in religion here within this chapter, and the use of religion as a tool of statecraft and control and manipulation from Wensicia, I suppose, and a desire for her son, Farad'n, to take an interest in the religion of Muad'Dib, if you like. We'll see that in a bit. But what we've got here is I like this chapter because it reminds me of the Baron and Piter. There's a hint of that here. I think the back and forth between a master and a very dangerous servant, if you like. And I think the conversation is kind of funny, and it's almost kind of a typical. I don't know. There's real kind of Bond villainry, if you like. Is that a good way of putting it? Real kind of typical, archetypal even villainry here, from Wensicia, and arguably her key henchman, I suppose, if you like. That's kind of the way I was thinking of these two when I was reading it. Excuse me. Have you seen the show called Still Game? Love those two and the fat guys. I think Doc would get a kick from it. Great show. I mean, possibly. Oh, hang on. Nearly did something stupid there. Still Game. Is that a good sitcom? Still Game? No, I haven't seen that one. Scottish. Who's that? Two Glaswegian pensioners. I know Chewing the Fat. Yeah. What was that? What was the show from Scotland with Stonybridge? And I love that. I'm trying to remember the name of that. That was good. No, a bit of Rab C. Nesbitt, but mate, I'll have a look at that. I haven't seen it. Connor, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Joseph, Still Game. Connor, Still Game. Joseph and Connor, thanks. I'll check it out, yeah. Oh, goodness, the thing. TV just to watch something at the moment. We're box setting Bones again, which is quite fun. I suppose we kind of like just TV to have on in the background, if you know what I mean. Actually, I'm planning on watching a whole bunch of Dune-related stuff real soon. Going to be going through all the different versions of Dune. I'm grabbing a pen and taking notes. Naked video. I remember that too, yeah. Is that the one with Stonybridge? Stonybridge. Come to Stonybridge. That's shite. Was that the same one? It's just yeah. I think the Critical Drinker uses a clip from that on his videos now and then. It's fun. We were just talking about shows, so I figured I'd mention it. No worries. Chewing the Fat was great. Set phasers to Milky. Naked video. I think it could be. Was Rab C. Nesbitt in that one as well, wasn't he? I think. Rab C. Nesbitt. Sorry, that's terrible, isn't it? Gregor, what's his name? Is it Gregor Fisher? He's really good. I was quite surprised seeing him in 1984, actually, with Richard Burton and John Hurt. Yeah, I thought his performance in that film was really good. Yeah, I'll have a wee natter. It's definitely shite. 1984 guy, yes. That's a cracking. I love There's a few different versions of 1984. That one's really, really good. I think the Peter Cushing one from the two-part Peter Cushing one that the BBC did's really good too, Hmm. I'll have to have a natter about 1984 sometime soon. Here we go, folks. Let's jump in. It was a small room tinged with the odor of ozone and reduced to a shadowy greyness by dimmed glow globes and the metallic blue light of a single trans-eye monitoring screen. The screen was about a metre wide and only 2/3 of a metre in height. It realised in remote detail a barren, rocky valley with two Laza tigers feeding on the bloody remnants of a recent kill. On the hillside above the tigers could be seen a slender man in Sardaukar working uniform. Levenbrech insignia at his collar. He wore a servo-controlled keyboard against his chest. So we met this guy before, and this is the trainer of the Laza tigers. We're told that one veriform, and that would mean like true form, I suppose, in English. One veriform suspensor chair faced the screen, occupied by a fair-haired woman of indeterminate age. She had a heart-shaped face and slender hands, which gripped the chair arms as she watched. The fullness of a white robe trimmed in gold concealed her figure. A pace to her right stood a blocky man, dressed in the bronze and gold uniform of a Bashar aide in the old imperial Sardaukar. His greying hair had been closely cropped over square, emotionless features. So this is Wensicia and Tyekanik. Interestingly enough, I've been trying to do a wee bit of work on Tyekanik, and I haven't found anything. I have multiple instances of Tyekanik's name changing in this chapter. Let me see. I'll point them out, but I've actually got different spellings of his name, which is interesting. I'm wondering, is it obviously the usual kind of slips, etc. I've got him as Tyekanik most of the way, but I also have him as Tyekanik with an H. And what was it? Another different one. So there's maybe something to that. I'll maybe try and see if we can figure anything on it. But we haven't got anything etymologically speaking either. And the same goes for Wensicia, by the way. But I must dig this up actually, because we had something on. We managed to find stuff on Count Casimir Fenring a long time ago, and it turned out that the characteristics of there were three counts, I think, three European noblemen. That it seemed that Casimir Fenring was a composite of the three of them, but in particular the attributes of the Shaddam IV was that one of these Fenrings had 5 daughters and no sons. And I always thought that was interesting, that had been. I pretty much felt that was an attribute that had been put onto Shaddam IV, if you see what I mean. Yes, indeed. But we'll try. Sorry, I don't know why I went on to that there. Probably something just to do. We'll see what we can find out about Tyekanik anyway. But it was just that Wensicia, in terms of the name, I was kind of thinking about things like Wenceslas and stuff like that. But at the same time, she's one of these 5 daughters, if that makes sense. Though, of course, she is Shaddam IV's daughter here. The woman, and it's a good introduction. Her introduction, as I said, this would remind you, if you're making a film, this would be, this chair, the gold and all this, and the hands, etc. Not seeing the person quite. If you said, very kind of Bond villain, very who am I thinking on? Very Doctor No, this kind of thing, Or sorry, very very Blofeld, isn't it? I think that kind of thing. But it's a good entrance for a villain, I think, even though it's just sitting in a chair. The woman coughed and said, "It went as you predicted, Tyekanik." "Assuredly, Princess," the Bashar aide said, his voice hoarse. She smiled at the tension in his voice, asked, "Tell me, Tyekanik, How will my son like the sound of Emperor Farad'n I? The title suits him, Princess. That was not my question. He might not approve some of the things done to give him that title. And then this is when it says it. Then again, and she turned, peered through the gloom at him. You served my father well. It was not your fault that he lost the throne to the Atreides, but surely the sting of that loss must be felt as keenly by you as by any. And Tyekanik cuts her off here. He interrupts her. Does the Princess Wensicia have some special task for me? Tyekanik asked. His voice remained hoarse, but there was a sharp edge to it now. And basically, she's touched a nerve here. She's poking at him. And he's interrupted her before she pokes at him anymore, I suppose. There's an interesting back and forth between these two, and I like it. It's well done. And she is poking at his pride here as an officer of the Sardaukar. The sting of that loss must be felt keenly by you, you know, and I should Coco. But have you got a job for me? Is there a reason why you're talking to me? This kind of thing. But I've just read here she's touched a nerve. And again, we get this, I suppose, haughty kind of cheeky response in a way, but a powerful response. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. You've a bad habit interrupting me. Let me just check that. Have I written that down correctly? You have a bad habit of interrupting me. I missed a word there. That's my fault this time. A bad habit of interrupting me, she said. Threatening, isn't it? I think. Well, especially when we see what sort of person she is, I suppose. Connor saying the Queen loved the Cushing one. I love anything with Peter Cushing in it, pretty much. But yeah, I thought it was good. Seeing it many, many years after the fact, I suppose. But very Baron Harkonnen, I think so. Yes, it's a good way of putting it. This chapter really does remind me on the back and forth between the Baron and Piter. It's that kind of relationship here. A dangerous employer and a very dangerous employee, if you like, who don't necessarily like each other. You have a bad habit of interrupting me, she said. Now he smiled, displaying thick teeth which glistened in the light from the screen. At times you remind me of your father, he said. Always these circumlocutions before a request for a delicate assignment, you know. So, and I thought this is interesting that he knows her here, or he's suggesting verbally straight to her face that he knows her. The interesting thing that I put down here is that what he's telling her is that she has a pattern of behavior, which generally is a thing that you think is not a good thing in the Dune universe, if you see what I mean, especially in such a dangerous kind of Machiavellian, you know, setting, if you like, you know. So at times you remind me of your father. Always these circumlocutions before you always dance around the issue before you don't get straight to the point, is what he's basically telling her here. And she jerked her gaze away from him to conceal anger. So he knows how to push her buttons as well, I think, here. And what you have is a little, almost like a little power game here. I think Tyekanik knows where the power lies, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I think he is quite happy to poke at this woman in a funny way, to prod her and to push her buttons. If you see what I mean, as much as she does it to him, he's giving as good as he gets here, I think, for a while anyway. So here we go. Do you really think those lasses will put my son on the throne? It's distinctly possible, Princess. You must admit that the bastard get of Paul Atreides would be no more than juicy morsels for those two. For these two. And with those twins gone, he shrugged. Pardon me. Now, I thought, again, we're getting the gist of the plot here, aren't we? And we can see that as much as this man's a soldier, a Bashar Aid, I think his response, as much as there's a shrug at the end of it, indicates real anger and hatred. It's the language, isn't it? It's distinctly possible, Princess, you must admit. Sorry, it's distinctly possible, Princess. You must admit that the bastard get of Paul Atreides would be no more than juicy morsels for these two. And with those twins gone, so he's yeah. Do you think it's possible? He's saying yeah, it is. It is distinctly possible. But it's just that the bastard get of Paul Atreides. There's his language is a bit colourful, isn't it? It suggests hatred and maybe a personal desire for revenge. Um, Wensicia says the grandson of Shaddam IV becomes the logical successor. She said, that is if we can remove the objections of the Fremen, the Landsraad, and Cho, not to mention any surviving Atreides who might. And is that all? I suppose. And we get this sort of interruption again. Bear with me a second, folks, just till I find this. He interrupts her again here. Tyekanik. Javid assures me that his people can take care of Alia quite easily. I do not count the Lady Jessica as an Atreides. Who else remains? And when Sissy replies, Landsraad and Chom will go where the prophet goes, she said, but what of the Fremen? We'll drown them in their Muad'Dib's religion. Easier said than done, my dear Tyekanik. I see, he said. We're back to the old argument. Now, we'll stop there a wee second, just jump back. So we kill the twins. That opens up a line of succession. This is the idea. And again, just like the plots in Dune, what we have is someone's aiming for the throne. Everybody's aiming for the throne in Dune, aren't they? So we're told that the grandson of Shaddam IV will become the logical successor. I'm not so sure that's the truth. Especially with Alia having been a regent, I would say if the twins were out of the way, things might resort to Alia. But logical successor, perhaps Farad'n is the next in terms of a male lineage, perhaps, I don't know. That is if we can remove the objections of the Fremen, the Landsraad, and Chom. So even with if he is this, the legitimate successor, we have to get around the Fremen, the Landsraad, and Chom. What they believe, and then we're told that Javid is in place and his people can take it. So this is the conspiracy aspect of things, that Javid is working with Wensicia and Tyekanik, House Corrino, and well, but I suppose by proxy, I think he's associated with Jack Urutu as well. So we have our conspiracy, and we can see who's lining up. The pieces are moving on the board, if you like. When Sissy's assessment is that Landsraad and Chom will go where the prophet goes. That doesn't quite make sense. You'd have to assume that the prophet is with just simply whoever's on the throne. That their hand will guide where the prophet is distributed, if you like, as an emperor. But what of the Fremen? And his responses will drown them in their Muad'Dib's religion. And again, it's quite an interesting term, I suppose, use of the word drown. Pardon me. I just put that there. So easier said than done, I would say so, my dear Tyekanik. And he says, I see, he said, we're back to the old argument. So the question becomes here, what is it? And I've got the arrows sort of driving about the notes here to kind of point this out. So here we go. Wensicia says that House Corrino has done worse things to gain power, she said. But to embrace this Mahdi's religion, my son respects you, she said. Princess, I long for the day when House Corrino returns to its rightful seat of power. So does every remaining Sardaukar here on Seleucia. But if you... And he's interrupted this time. And this is where I have the misprint of his name, by the way. At this point here, I have Tyekanik. When Sissia says Tyekanik, so of course it's Tyekanik. And I've just read this must be a misprint. I've got a few with his name in this chapter. Yeah, definitely Tyehanik with an exclamation mark is what I've got here. Tyekanik, but it's Tyekanik. This is the planet Seleucia Secundus. Do not fall into the lazy ways which spread through our imperium. Full name, complete title, attention to every detail. Those attributes will send the Arrakis lifeblood into the sands of Arrakis. Every detail, Tyekanik. There we go. Did that end with the same spelling? Yeah, that paragraph for me starts with Tyekanik and ends with his name being correct again, Tyekanik. He knew what she was doing with this attack. Yeah. It was part of the I like this. It was part of the tricky shiftiness she'd learned from her sister Irulan. But he felt himself losing ground. He's on the back foot here. Details, and it's, you could have almost called this chapter details as well, I think. Every detail. None of this lazy, these lazy ways which have spread through the Imperium. I want details. And this would remind you of the Baron, I think, again. And Piter. But he felt himself losing ground. Do you hear me, Tyekanik? Wensicia is definitely a forceful personality, isn't she? And she's not letting him away without answering or dodging the issue as well. She's making sure she gets the answers that she wants. I hear, Princess. Now, note that he doesn't say obey. There, I heard you is what he basically says, but he doesn't. Do you hear me? I hear. And he's the language that he's using. He's playing with her a wee bit. I said it's almost a word game. This. I hear, Princess. I want you to embrace this Muad'Dib religion, she said. Princess, I would walk into fire for you, but that is an order, Tyekanik. Dear, Tyekanik. So he swallowed, stared into the screen. The Laza tigers had finished feeding and now lay on the sand, completing their toilet, long tongues moving across their forepaws. An order, Tyekanik. Again, she's not letting him away. And now she gets the response that she wants. I hear and obey, Princess. His voice did not change tone. She sighed. Oh, if only my father were alive. And again, yes, Princess. Don't mock me, Tyekanik. I know how distasteful this is to you, but if you set the example, he may not follow, Princess. He'll follow. She pointed at the screen. It occurs to me that the Levenbrech out there could be a problem. This is where we're entering the full super villainy mode, I think, archetypal villain. What? Archetypal villainy skill day 1, lesson 1. How to dispose of henchmen. Dear. And again, there is this aspect to this part of the story, I think, which is fun. It is a kind of an established trope in all sorts of types of stories, if you like. But the villain being villainous, we've had them killing kids, etc. Now it's time to dispose of, anyone who can sort of lead a trail back to this kind of thing. So we'll see how merciless and vicious she is really here. But don't mock me, Tyekanik. I know how distasteful this is to you. But if you set the example, he may not follow, Princess. He'll follow. She pointed at the screen. It occurs to me that the Levenbrech out there could be a problem. A problem? How is that? How many people know this thing of the tigers? When someone starts asking questions like that, it's time to, that Levenbrech, who is their trainer, one transport pilot, you, and of course, and he tapped his own chest. Him. That makes 4. What about the buyers? Wensicia asks. And buyers is, I've written down greater than 1. It's a plural. But we're told that they know nothing. What is it you fear, princess? The only thing was was in relation to the buyers. I thought she might have went after them as well, to be honest with you. They know nothing. What is it you fear, princess? My son is, well, sensitive. And Tyekanik responds with this: Sardaukar do not reveal secrets, he said. Neither do dead men. And uh-oh. She reached forward and depressed a red key beneath the lighted screen. Immediately the Laza tigers raised their heads. They got to their feet and looked up the hill at the Levenbrech. Moving as one, they turned and began a scrambling run up the hillside. This guy's about to get his, isn't he? I've written here, it's just a bit cliched, maybe, but maybe a bit, part and parcel of a good villain, if you like, is setting them up in a way like this. So appearing calm at first, the Levenbrech depressed a key on his console. Oh. His movements were assured, but as the cats continued their dash towards him, he became more frenzied, pressing the key harder and harder. You could play this for quite comic elements in some ways, couldn't you? A look of startled awareness came over his features, and his hand jerked towards the working knife at his waist. The movement came too late. A raking claw hit his chest and sent him sprawling. As he fell, the other tiger took his neck in one great fanged bite and shook him. His spine snapped. Attention to detail, the princess said. She turned, stiffened as Tyekanik drew his knife. Again, I have another mistake there. I've got him again as Tyekanik this time. Is that the same spelling mistake as before? Let me just see. Wasn't that far back? Where was it? There it is. Tyekanik. Yeah, I must check it. Maybe that's something. Maybe I'll have a look at the etymology of that word and see if we can find it. But I've got on two, I think maybe three occasions, I have Tyekanik's name here as Tyekanik with an H on the fourth letter, and that's another instance there. Attention to detail, the princess said. She turned, stiffened as Tyekanik drew his knife. But he presented the blade to her handle foremost. Now, I thought this was quite funny. There we go. Just in terms of there's our Sardaukar Levenbrech, Death by Laza Tiger. Pardon me, excuse my bad doodles on this. Now, I've also wrote here that attention to detail, the princess said. She turned, stiffened as tight. Oh no, sorry, it's a mistake. Sorry, it's just something else. Sorry, that's my mistake here. Hang on, that's me saying that's a literal mistake. I thought that was something else. I was thinking on it's later on. Apologies. Hang on a second. There we go. Apologies. So he basically pulls out a knife and offers it to her. Perhaps, and I like this quite grim humor, if you like. Tyekanik's quite funny, I think, here. He's what's the word? Quite sardonic, and is that the word? Grimly humorous. Perhaps you'd like to use my knife to attend to another detail, he said, referring to himself. Do you want to kill me now? Her response, I think, is quite funny. Put that back in its sheath and don't act a fool, she raged. That was a good man out there, princess. One of my best. Pardon me. Interesting if we think about what the epigraph told us. Never mind that it referred to Muad'Dib, but just in terms of how a man must permit his deeds and his words to agree. When your actions describe a system of evil consequences, you should be judged by those consequences, not by our explanations. But simply put, he's saying that was a good man out there. This is a man who's feeding children to tigers, and has just been fed to those tigers. It's kind of just desserts, but I certainly wouldn't have called him a good man, and that's not what Tyekanik means. He, in that sense, good. He's a useful soldier. can follow orders. And according to Tyekanik, there's no need to kill this guy, because Sardaukar do not reveal secrets, these elite troops, but she kills them anyway. That was a good man out there, Princess. One of my best. One of my best, she corrected him. So I put touche there. He drew a deep, trembling breath and sheathed his knife. I'm one of my transport pilot. And again, it's funny here because he's still poking at her in a funny kind of way. It's the use of the word "my," this personal pronoun here. He goes, "That was a good man out there, Princess. One of my best." She replies by saying, "One of my best," and then, but his next line is he's still poking at her. "And one of my transport pilot." If you see what I mean. I don't know if you were. Pardon me, I must have a wee look at this in Children of Dune. I'm looking forward to rewatching the miniseries there this weekend, hopefully. Susan Sarandon, who's a great actress, plays Wensicia in Children of Dune. I was kind of wondering, it's been that long since I've seen it, I'm kind of wondering, is Tyekanik in it? And I was simply thinking, if you had this in a movie or something, you should they should cast a really good, sarcastic, really good actor. He's good at doing sarcasm or something like that, but of a right age, if you see what I mean. But I think it's a very interesting little part. If it's an interesting character, Tyekanik. I think he's funny. But one of my transport pilot, this will be ascribed to an accident, she said. You will advise him to employ utmost caution when he brings those tigers back to us. And of course, when he has delivered our pets to Jabin's people on the transport, she looked at his knife. Is that an order, Princess? It is. Shall I then fall on my knife, or will you take care of that detail? And again, I'm trying to think of some henchmen that this reminds me on. The one that popped to mind was Derek O'Connor's henchman in Lethal Weapon 2. Who's the bad guy? It's Josh. Oh goodness, Joss. Oh, what's your name, Joss? Joss Ackland. That's it, isn't it? Joss Ackland's the main bad guy. And Derek O'Connor plays his henchman. There's a bit where he kills people for this guy. There's a bit where he's just looking around at the ground. And the Joss Ackland's villain goes, "What are you doing?" And he's just looking to see if I was standing on a drum cloth. And or is he going to have me popped and dragged out of here? It's that kind of thing, if you know what I mean. The very wary chief henchman, the competent sort of soldier type bad guy, if you like, who's just following orders. But I do like Tyekanik's character here and how he interacts with Wensicia. And he's he's definitely sort of playing with her a bit. And can you blame him, to be honest with you? So I've given the pilot a little skull because that'll happen. There he is. Off. There we go. Give him some headphones, and it's the pilot. And I've just put accident, stroke, murder, which will do for him. Dear, oh dear. She spoke with a false calm, her voice heavy. Tyekanik, were I not absolutely convinced that you would fall on your knife at my command, you would not be standing here beside me, armed. I thought that was kind of funny. Based on what we know about the Sardaukar, this guy's probably got weapons all over him, in his teeth and his hair, all sorts of things, And I would suggest that he doesn't need a knife to kill Wensicia quickly or easily. He swallowed, stared at the screen. The tigers once more were feeding. That could be you. She refused to look at the scene, continued to stare at Tyekanik as she said, "You will as well." Tell our buyers not to bring us any more matched pairs of children who fit the necessary descriptions. Pardon me. As you command, Princess. I need to write something down here. Quickly, it's just popped into my head. Bear with me a wee second. There she is. Bear with me a wee second. Sorry, folks, I just want to scribble something down. Oh, that's right. What's your brother called? There he is. That's it. Enough. That's it. I was just thinking, sorry, just something that popped into my head, and I wanted to scribble it down. I'll look into it a wee bit for next time. But it was something that was actually I have been considering brother and sister characters that were similar to Leto and Ghanima. Excuse me, especially with the wicked stepmother type, this kind of character. Now, something about this was making me think on Ghanima is a bit like Hela or Ellie, as she's known, and her brother Phrixus. That's what I was thinking. I'll have a wee look into this. Their story is escaping that of it's a story from Greek mythology. Is one of siblings escaping an evil stepmother, if you like, who hates them, and they escape. That's Eno, and they escape her on the back of the Almathea. Which is the divine sort of goat that goes on to become the golden fleece. Hela falls into the sea, by the way. Phrixus survives, Hela does not. Where Hela falls into the sea, that is known as the Hellespont. And it's still known as that today, and it is a very, very important sort of nautical thing in Greek mythology, if you see what I mean. Sorry, I'm going to look into that. It was just something that popped up, and particularly within this book, we're talking about kind of female regents in history and stuff. Semiramis, we're going to characters like her. I'm going to come back to that. I'm having a wee read at this as well at the minute, along with Julian's stuff. I'm trying to get it all finished and then start running my head through it. But I'm hoping to bring a wee bit of Herodotus to this as well, actually, soon. Just in relation to oracles, I found some fun stuff that I think you might be interested in, that you would just think is absolutely bonkers, Let me just catch up with your oh goodness, comments. Goodness, right, hang on, folks, let me see. Wensicia, okay, Barry Baron Harkon. Carl saying Wensicia wasn't even important enough for Bene Gesserit training, apparently. Yeah, you get the gist here that she's picked. Interestingly enough, that Ireland doesn't seem to get all the Bene Gesserit training, but it looks like a chunk of her character, by the looks of it, has just picked tricks up from her eldest sister Ireland. But yeah, don't get the sense that she's Bene Gesserit. She's very much more a daughter of the royal household. And again, if we remember that way back, somewhere in Dune, there's an epigraph about what it's like to live and grow up in such a household and how dangerous it is. And it's a different kind of danger than, say, living on Arrakis, But she's again, if we think of this universe, poison, intrigue, all of this kind of stuff, she's a very Machiavellian character. I get that kind of thing, But yeah, no BG training. She's well played in the Sci-Fi Channel version, says Joseph Smith. Absolutely, yes. Connor said, Wensicia is enterprising on her own. She certainly is. There's more to come here. She's got her eye on her own future in a funny kind of way, because she in a sense that we think about Alia being a regent for Leto and Ghanima, in a sense that she is a regent in a funny kind of way, even though he's not actually in a position of power, but she's acting like one for her own son, in a sense. And she also has a bit like the Baron, by the way. Again, we're talking about comparisons to the Baron and Piter. A bit like the Baron, she realizes that it's not about putting herself in a position of power, though where she's going to end up in that situation is on her mind here. And I think it's probably the main reason that she will keep Tyekanik on side. Is that soon, if things go her way, her son will take power, and he's a sensitive soul. And again, the idea that he might not approve of things his mother does here, there's a chance he might send her away, this kind of thing. And that's a concern for her. So she's thinking ahead. She's thinking about her own son being on the throne, the economics of the situation, the different power groups. She's not Bene Gesserit trained, so she has a brain on her. And whatever training she has, or whatever she's picked up, it's just that she can survive in the royal household. That would probably make her exceptionally dangerous. And at the same time, her father is gone. She's in Solusus Secundus, in a position of power right now, with Sardaukar at her disposal. So that's nothing to be sniffed at, I think she's a very impressive character, very much so. I love the banter here. And again, I can't remember much of this book. It's been so long that I love stuff like this. My favorite chapters in Dune are Piter and the Baron. Bar none. Them two going at each other is just brilliant. I've always gutted that Piter died when he did. I thought the Baron would have been a lot more fun with Piter at his side all the way through, if you see what I mean. But Piter's a good death, and it's one that brings up all sorts of questions. But it's a very similar kind of odd couple relationship in a funny way. It's an unequal relationship, but what I also get from Wensicia in this chapter, I don't know if you agree with me, guys, is that she's aware that relationship will shift, because Tyekanik has a strong relationship with her son Farad'n, and you get the gist that it's like a father figure type, or at the very least on a par to the relationships that Paul Atreides had with the likes of Gurney and Duncan Idaho and Thufir Hawat, that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, all right. And Connor's got. I've got. Must be a misprint. I have K here. Yeah, Tyekanik. Yeah, it's again. We've still K. Yeah, it's certain editions of the books, Connor, and others not. So we're finding them a fair bit, mostly in the ones that I've got by the looks of it. Thank you very much for checking that. Joseph Smith, good. I'm hoping to watch them this weekend. Joseph, she was terrific, and yes, Tyekanik is in it. I must check it out just to see what they did with it. Christopher Crowley saying, I have to admit, mostly rereading Children of Dune to get more of an insight behind Leto. His sister's story, I think, suffered. I agree. It is. It's sad, actually, because I don't know. Ghanim's a good character, and especially whenever we do get to the God Emperor of Dune, you just kind of feel that it's a loss, if you like, if you know. And granted, so much time has gone by, but you kind of figured that she might be along for the ride with him, especially the way things are left at the end of Children of Dune. But it's a thing, isn't it? Sometimes characters just, and they take their place, I suppose, again, because we get a wee sense of it from Ghanima and Farad'n as they're chatting about Leto at the end of the book, but he was the stronger of the two. But it's to create a character like the God Emperor, I don't think we could have had two of them. To be honest with you, it would diminish the character, both characters. I think, but it is. I agree with you. It's Ganima's story does suffer, and it's sad. It's a thing that I don't know if we were writing the book different ourselves. Maybe she's certainly a character that I would want to develop more. Um, you know, but while she's about, she's pretty. But yeah, things shift more of a focus onto. And again, but there's something about that within the Dune series that I would always talk about, Christopher, how much of Beverly Herbert's hand is behind the female characters, and at the same time that there's a natural tendencies for those characters to fall to the background. But it's not to diminish their importance. Does that make sense? But unfortunately, with Ghanima, that is a character where, sadly, what we get of Ghanima really is in this book, and that's it. But yeah, she's definitely, and again, the female aspect of the Kwisatz Haderach, etc., pretty interesting to explore. But I'm sure topic for Brian Herbert to milk. you know, dear. I still think somebody was mentioning the interesting. We must maybe have a sit and have a one night. We must just sit, not do chapters, but chat about some of the thought experiments that we can do with Dune. But I'd almost dedicate a whole night to sit and chatting about the potential of having three different Baron Harkonnens and three different Atreides other memories. That would be a book, wouldn't it? The Three Barons. There you go. Another one for Brian and Kevin J. Anderson. Sorry, I'm being cheeky, folks. I'm enjoying this tonight. It's good, just good to be feeling better. Does that make sense? It makes a hell of a difference to your mood. And normally when I really enjoy doing these, but see when I'm sick and I'm just a bit self-conscious of all the coughing and spluttering and stuff. But it's I'm having good fun doing this one tonight. So apologies for all the sickness and stuff lately. It's just one of those things. Christopher saying, hi, all glad to see some fellow Dune fans out in YouTube land. Thanks for the great work, Doc. No worries. And everybody's always welcome. And Julian Thompson, there's possibly a level of comedy that goes on with Tyekanik and Wensicia. Absolutely. That's kind of, yeah, I think so. I got the sense that they're rather silly. It's a back and it is and you get that with Baron and the Baron and Piter, this kind of poking at each other, testing limits. And I think there definitely is a sense of humor here. It's in the language, keep referring to himself as you can take another. Would you like to use my knife to attend to another detail? Then shall I fall on my own knife, or will you take care of that detail? The language is clandestine as well, isn't it? It's just kill him. It's just it's all very a bit roundabout way, and I just suppose it shows Wensicia as a kind of as a stealthy kind of, well, I suppose she blatantly killed that guy there, but there's nobody looking. But she's happy to sort of tidy up the evidence, get rid of witnesses, kill whoever. Doesn't matter. Kill anyone really to get her son on the throne. And that should tell us a fair amount about her character, But definitely, I think there is a how did you put it there, Julian? They're rather silly. There is something I'm enjoying the chapter, but there is a humor in it, definitely. And it's a dangerous humor. It's grim. And it's subtle, and there's lots of subtext there, I think, as well. But especially, things like he is pushing at her a wee bit. Things like, I hear you instead of I hear and obey, and then she keeps pushing at him till we get the I hear, okay, I hear and obey. So Wensicia is playing a game with him too, but I think as it says in this chapter, he realizes he's on the back foot with her. He's not winning the game, but there is something else to it. She's making, and this is what also reminds me of why Wensicia reminds me of the Baron. We've talked about this repetition of ideas and motifs, etc., and themes within the Dune series. is that she's teaching him a lesson with all of this. Attention to detail. The lesson of the Levenbrech is coming here. But this is a lesson, and the Baron does this with Fade and Piter. The Baron's is always trying to teach them something. So ultimately, again, that the goal is to put her son on the throne, not be herself, and she's aware that could be a problem for herself. And we'll get to that quite. Oh, here, where are we? Maybe a fair bit to go yet. We'll get to it. Joseph Smith said, don't forget that like button. Yeah, folks, give us a like or subscribe if you're into the channel. There's Sootpot. Good to hear you doing better. Thank you, Sootpot. I hope you're doing well. I've been meaning to type you a wee email and have a chat with you, so I'll pop something in the mail soon. But I hope you're doing well yourself, sir. It's good to see you. Yeah, I'm a lot better. I've had a right old chest. In fact, it must be about 4 or 5 weeks. And for about the first couple of weeks, I didn't really realize I was sick. If you see, I'm a bit like that. And then the third week, I was absolutely really bad. And then I've been hitting the medicine ever since. So still got a slight cough and wheeze, but everything's shifting. But I felt almost positively asthmatic. And it kind of kicked me for 6 just in terms of energy a wee bit. But I'm one of these people that gets the cold all the time and stuff, and it usually doesn't bother me. But it was one of those. So I'm still on the honey and the Lemsips and cough medicine and just lots of decongestants, But I'm getting there, I just saying that probably as soon as I'm better, I'll probably just pick up another cold the week after. Because I tutor small kids, it's the kind of the yearly turnaround, if you know what I mean, and the same with the secondary school kids. They all go back to school and they all give each other and it's one of those things. It's a kind of an occupational hazard in the sense that you always pick up wee things off the kids, So let's see, where do we get to? But yeah, thank you, Sootpot. All good. Thanks. Look after yourself. Well, we'll have to have a wee chat soon, Sootpot. But thank you very much. I hope you're keeping well. Yeah. Just hello, everybody. If you're popping in for the room there, do say hello if you're about. We're piling through chapter 9 of Children of Dune tonight. Yes, indeed. I'm getting carried away. Yeah, little Tyekaniks and Tyekaniks, the little details. I don't know. I think there's an awful lot of mistakes in the British. But I've kind of just sort of took it upon myself as we go through these books. Just if we find any wee mistakes or anything like that, it's just to add it into the work. It's good to spot wee things like this. Could end up sending all these notebooks to the Herbert estate at the end of this. I don't know, and tell them to sort it out. Oh dear. Now let's see. Where do we get to? Oh yes, Fall My Life with detail. Have I flipped back a little bit? Let me see. Yes, indeed. So this was about the buyers, wasn't it? She refused to look at the scene, continued to stare at Tyekanik as she said, "You will as well tell our buyers not to bring us any more matched pairs of children who fit the necessary descriptions. As you command, Princess." So again, she's having kids murdered. She's a very much an archetypal villain, almost something out of fairy tales or mythology. Don't use that tone with me, Tyekanik. Yes, Princess. You get the sense his tone doesn't shift at all. Her lips drew into a straight line. How many more of these paired costumes do we have? 6 sets of the robes, complete with still suits and the sand shoes, all with the Atreides insignia worked into them. So we were saying at some point we'll have to have a wee natter as well about clothing and second skins and stuff within this book. And I think we'll keep that for a certain point. Actually, I think we'll keep that for whenever Leto starts to put on the second skin. I think what we'll do for that, as I think we've said, is we'll dig out the work of Maureen Noel-Zinder's work on the Moapo of Leto the Second, Leto Atreides, which is a study on that. The ideas of the second skin, this kind of thing, of Didier Anzu. I think it's a psychological thing. And we'll have a wee nosy at that as well. Something to look forward to. So 6 sets of clothes, so up 6 sets of the robes complete with still suits and the sand shoes, all with the Atreides insignia worked into them. I'm wondering, is that 6 sets of two, or just 6 individual sets of clothes? So for 3 more sets of 2 kids, but either way, at least 6 more kids ready to be killed potentially. So how? And again, this is when Sissy. I remember there's attention to detail. 6 sets of robes, complete with still suits and the sand shoes, all of the Atreides insignia worked into them. This has been part of the plan as well, to use to train the Laza tigers to hunt these children, so that whenever they go to Arrakis, they'll hunt the Atreides kids, who will probably dress the same way if they're in the desert. So when Sissy says, fabrics as rich as the ones on that pair, she nodded towards the screen. Fit for royalty, princess. Attention to detail, she said. The garments will be dispatched to Arrakis as gifts for our royal cousins. They will be gifts from my son. Do you understand me, Tyekanik? Completely, princess. Have him inscribe a suitable note. It should say that he sends these few paltry garments as tokens of his devotion to House Atreides, something on that order. On the occasion, there must be a birthday or holy day or something, Tyekanik. I leave that to you. I trust you, my friend. And talking about the silly conversation, this bit here, I was just considering that. I just mentioned that to my wife the other day, Connor. The whole hot water towel bucket. I had said that a full jar of Vic going into it just to clear out the sinuses and stuff. Pardon me. So this conversation is basically going along about the plot, and there's a subtle shift here. And again, I think this is funny. There must be, again, so send them as a gift. There to be as if they come from my son, Farad'n. What's the occasion? Birthday, holy day, anything, but make sure it's an occasion so it doesn't look suspicious. I'll leave that up to you. And then this bit, I trust you, my friend. The response here is he stared at her silently. And we've pointed out throughout the Dune series often that that's a particular type of response. And I've written here that the word friend is a loaded term here. And I get the real sense that it's just that it's a word that should just rings separate from the rest of this paragraph, if you like. I trust you, my friend. It sounds loaded, it sounds wrong, it sounds dangerous. There's something about it that and we get, I love the response. He stared at her silently. And then her maybe not quite what she was expecting. Possibly suggesting that she's trying to impart a level of trust onto Tyekanik, but he's just watched her kill one of his own men, and surely he can't be that stupid. Surely you must know that. Who else can I trust since the death of my husband? And I've written down next to this, what happened to her husband? And why is he not running Solusa Secundus? What's happened to the husband? And has she killed him? Possibly in an attempt to move Farad'n further. Maybe he wouldn't have agreed with what she's up to, but he's dead. Whatever's happened to him. Who else can I trust since the death of my husband? Is what I would be saying if I was Tyekanik now. He shrugged, thinking, and I love this. He shrugged, thinking how closely she emulated the spider. It would not do to go. It would not do to get on intimate terms with her, as he now suspected his Levenbrech had done. So the guy that she's just killed, and again the spider. This suggestion isn't like killing after mating, like the Black Widow, this kind of thing. That's the kind of impression we're supposed to get really from this, that she's a bit like a Black Widow, and possibly I don't know. Possibly the implication, the subtext is that she's killed her husband. And I just liked his thinking there. He shrugged. She wants to be. She wants me to be her friend. She wants me to trust her. And who else can she do since the death of her husband? Um, so he thinks that the guy's just been ripped apart by her with a casual flick of a button. That he's been sharing her bed. That the Levenbrech has been her boy toy, if you like. Kills after mating is what I've written down. So no, I don't. I think I like the Tyekanik, even though he's prepared to offer up his life to a degree. For this woman, I'd leap into fire for you, all of this kind of thing. He's not prepared to leap into bed with her, and I think that's really funny. So regardless of what this Sardaukar Basharian says, really, his thoughts have a degree of self-preservation about them, if you see what I mean. I think that's hilarious. And Tyekanik, she said, one more detail, and there's that word again. Yes, princess. My son is being trained to rule. There will come a time when he must grasp the sword in his own hands. You will know when that moment arrives. I'll wish to be informed immediately. As you command, princess. She leaned back, peered knowingly at Tyekanik. Now, just before we go on, just to say, that's the bit we're talking about. My son is being trained to rule. There will come a time when he must grasp the sword in his own hands. In other words, when he takes over the house, when he rules, she'll still be there. You will know when that moment arrives. I'll wish to be informed immediately, because that's the loss of her power. And depending on what she does, and this is what I got from this, depending on what she does and how Farad'n, if in a position of power such as emperor or even head of the house, House Corrino, might not react too well to her. And she maybe might want to get out of there or something like that. She might have a sense of self-preservation of her own. Even though she's playing quite a dangerous game with people who are supposedly prescient. She leaned back, peered knowingly at Tyekanik. So we were talking about how he showed little things about her behavior right at the start, that he kind of knows her. She knows him. You do not approve of me. I know that. It is unimportant to me as long as you remember the lesson of the Levenbrech. And I think this is hilarious. And depending on how you want to read this, Tyekanik's response here, I think, is gold. This is the lesson of the Levenbrech, is what I've called. But here's his response. She says it is unimportant to me as long as you remember the lesson of the Levenbrech. And this is what he says. He was very good with animals, but disposable. Yes, princess. And I think that's brilliant. Now, if you want to run with what we've just implied, there's a double meaning there. And that he was very good with animals is not just the Laza tiger, but with Wensicia as well, if you see what I mean. And I've written that that's another dig, and it's a subtle one, and it's a kind of almost a dumb response, but it's a direct response, and I just thought it was funny. I don't know if maybe it's just me. Am I the only person getting this? I know, who was it saying? Julian, you thought this was silly. I think it's hilarious, and it is. It's that kind of veiled humor, if you like, that we definitely got with the Baron and the Piter in Dune. But he's very good with animals. If you just run that by, suspected what his Levenbrech had done, his Levenbrech's been cheeky. I think it's very cheeky. It's very subtle. I might be completely wrong. I don't know if you agree with me, but I thought it was funny. And her response has got a big exclamation mark on it. That is not what I mean. It isn't. And then I don't understand. And I wonder, is he playing stupid or not here? But he's certainly been I think he's certainly been on the back foot with Wensicia, but he's certainly been trying to hold his own and have a bit of fun at the same time. It's a grim humor, I think. So it's not that he was very good. The lesson of the Levenbrech is not that he was very good with animals but disposable. Uh, this is the lesson of the Levenbrech. An army, she said, is composed of disposable, completely replaceable parts. Well, did I read that? Disposable. Well, sorry, let me just check that. Where's my notes? Where disposable? Yeah, it's my bad handwriting. Disposable. There we go. Sorry. I'll read that again. Excuse me. An army, she said, is composed of disposable, completely replaceable parts. That is the lesson of the Levenbrech. Replaceable parts, he said, including the Supreme Commander. Without the Supreme Command, there is seldom a reason for an army, Tyekanik. That is why you will immediately embrace this Mahdi religion and at the same time begin the campaign to convert my son. It's a little comment on the army from Frank. He's got several opinions on the nature of the armed forces, etc., historically and I think in the modern world from his time as well. But so that without the Supreme Command, there's seldom a reason for an army. So if it doesn't have people running it, then you don't really need it. It's an interesting comment, actually, if you think about the nature of how would you put it, but the military and modern sort of democracies, particularly like places like Britain and America, and it's big business, isn't it? Tyekanik says, at once, Princess. So, sorry, just to follow on, the lesson is everyone is disposable, everyone's replaceable. And he goes, including the head. And I think that the point is, yes, without the Supreme Command, there's seldom a reason for an army. In that case, there wouldn't be a reason for you, Tyekanik. But at the same time, I think that there's also the point that Wensicia is making that my son is being trained to rule. In other words, he's going to replace me. I'm acting on behalf of him up until a point. Whenever that point happens, you're to tell me as soon as possible, because her situation will have changed, I think, and it could change to a dangerous situation. But at the same time, the point, I suppose, is that there would be a different Supreme Commander for the Sardaukar as well, a different, or possibly would there with Farad'n's nature. We'll get there, won't we? At once, Princess. So it's. I want you to start embracing the Mahdi religion, the religion of Muad'Dib. At the same time, this is again what Paul's going, the preacher's going to deconstruct and to try to destroy. And at the same time, begin the campaign to convert my son. So she understands it, I suppose, as a tool of statecraft and as a power base for any potential emperor. And that if her son is a convert to the religion of Muad'Dib, then he would be able to lead it, would he not, as emperor? I think that's the gist of it. And for that to happen, it seems that Tyekanik is the main father figure in Farad'n's life. And if Tyekanik encourages this and goes down this path, and I suppose basically will indoctrinate Farad'n for the princess in this religion, which could be dangerous. His response again is all I've written, poking again here at Wensicia. At once, Princess. I presume you don't want me to stint his education in the other martial arts at the expense of this religion. And again, that's just, this is how we wrap up the chapter, I suppose. But she pulled herself out of the chair, strode around him, paused at the door and spoke without looking back. Someday you will try my patience once too often, Tyekanik, which is clearly a threat. And with that, she let herself out. And there we go. Off she goes. And as much as that we kind of got a sense of her character, I think previously, that's the first time we've really had a good really good look at Wensicia. Yes, indeed. I must have a wee look. I'll see if I can dig up the stuff on the real Fenrings from my notebooks. But there was stuff to do with their five daughters. Now, I wonder if I can find anything. Um, but certainly, stepping forward as our main villain, uh, pretty much her and Ali. It's all go within the book at the minute. The plot is advancing. We're finding out more. I loved that chapter. I'd kind of read ahead with the next chapter as well, but I didn't get time to finish the notes on it. This week we got all sorts of crazy stuff with the house and stuff, trying to get sorted. But as I said, we're trying to find a good, try to get into a weekly natural rhythm of this, that we can work away. But I absolutely adored that chapter. It had real villainy. You've got to have a good for your heroes to be good heroes, no matter what. And even where the word hero is such a funny thing within these books, and the Dune series is in a sense an attack on the hero, a different types of hero. You still need a bloody good villain, don't you? Even though there are whatever you want to call them, heroes, anti-heroes, protagonists, you still need a strong antagonist or villain, if you like. And there's lots of a few cliches here with Wensicia and Tyekanik, but I love the back and forth between them. I thought it was a really well written chapter, and again, and we get little parallels. This with these chapters as well. This one, you can line this one up and jump back if you like. Look at the relation. The chapter 7 was it, where we see Gurney Halleck and Jessica and their relationship. And this one's almost a mirror to theirs, isn't it? If you see what I mean. A female head of a house, a major house, and her main deadly guy, if you like. It was the chapter between Gurney and Jessica was much more business-like. Pardon me. And there's an agenda for Wensicia here, and she's looking for a particular response, a particular set of actions from Tyekanik, and as much as the man is maybe not that easy to manipulate, there is a power relationship between the two. I do find it funny that this man would die for her. I genuinely think it's funny that he would die for her, but I'm not getting into bed with her. It would not do. It would not do to get on intimate terms with her. I think it's a cracking chapter. I said I'm looking forward to having a look at Tyekanik and Children of Dune just to see what sort of how the actor works. But if I was making a film of this and I was casting it, I'd try to have as much fun. Get a really good actor for that part. It's a good character for a henchman, if you like. And again, it's one of Frank's strengths, actually. Wensicia is going to be a major character here. Tyekanik, not so much so. There are characters like him within Dune. Again, there's Piter's a bit similar, just in this back and forth. Nephid, it probably remind me a wee bit more on Nephid in some ways as well. But he's a Sardaukar, and we haven't really seen too much of them up close and personal before either. We've seen a bit of them in Dune. We saw probably more of them with being interrogated by the Fremen and Paul, that kind of thing. But this is one up close and personal, dealing with his supreme commander. And I thought the relationship was very funny that she could have, and she's having men who are loyal to the point of death. Sardaukar meant to be fanatics, but she's still having them killed. Really villainous. Almost expected a spate of booming guffaws from her. God, that reminds me, what was I watching today? While I was making these notes, I had such a laugh. I watched Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, just in the background, and just God, did it make me giggle. It really did. I looked up at the bit where is it Mona and Doc Savage sort of tells Doc Savage that she loves him and all of this, and it's the bit where he gives her the whole spiel about why he cannot love a woman. And I just laughed my head off, and then at the end of it he just goes, "You're a brick, Mona." And I just how wonderfully bizarre and strange and can't be nuts that film was. But something I've been wanting to have a wee chat about it sometime is just within the general realms of science fiction is the George Powell movies. In particular, the three of them that are When Worlds Collide, The War of the Worlds, and The Time Machine. Three of my favorite movies. But I don't know why I did not know this, but I did not know that Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, was a George Powell movie. But goodness, so I don't know if any of you are familiar with Doc Savage, but there'd be no Buckaroo Banzai without Doc Savage, for example. And he's a kind of example of the development of the Edison Age hero. Uh, well, there we go, folks. So just while doing a bit of Children of Dune, had Doc Savage on the background today. I've had a good old giggle today, and I really enjoyed that chapter. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I just thought it was great. It was 5.5 pages in my copy. And again, Frank writing a lot of these shorter chapters within this book. It's a different kind of there is a different there's a change to his style within this book. I think, which is interesting. And again, it's possibly to accommodate different historical voices, etc., within the text. But I loved this chapter. I found myself laughing away at it. I'm just I have a good imagination on me. I can run this in my head and imagine two people doing this back and forward, and it just made me giggle. And I thought it was all very, sinister, and the conspiracy moves forward, and the proper villainy from Wensicia, and it just as much as it's a bit tropey, if you like, it's part and parcel of a great adventure story, isn't it? We need a good villain, and I thought it's a great little kind of when Sissia has arrived, if you like, and all for her son. She's all right. She is dangerous. Black Widow, spider, setting a web and a trap, But absolutely great film, that chapter. I loved it, and we'll be running with the next one again. Sorry, I had planned to do 2 chapters this week, folks, and I suppose the good thing about doing that is that it's to do with certain chapters. But I had planned to run that one. The next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is 5.5 as well, and that took us a while to get through. I suppose we're 10 o'clock start, but we're 20, about an hour and 45. It does mean that if I suppose sometimes I would struggle to get the large chapters done each week, and wherever there are 2 chapters, it means I suppose if I don't get one done, I can still run with a single chapter. So it's kind of providing, as I said, it's not going to work for a lot of the chapters. Most of them are going to do them individually anyway, but it provides me with a wee bit of a safety net. Pardon me, in terms of making sure that I actually get on here with the program once a week, Dear, let's have a wee look. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the chapter, folks, and the book's starting to get going. Really, not that it hasn't already, but it's moving up a notch, I think. Souppot said, I think she did kill her husband. He would have blocked her son's ascendancy. I get the gist of that, I think, Souppot. Thank you. Soup, I think it would be a reminder that Farad'n is not a paternally descended Corrino. Interesting one, Carlos. Carlos saying the Levenbrech has a very dry sense of humor. The dog, oh dear, yeah, and especially in the previous chapter where we get the kind of inner thinkings of the Levenbrech, and he's killing these kids, and he's definitely looking for. He thinks he's a made man, doesn't he? And now we know why. Because he's having nookie with Wensicia, and she's just pushed. I love the way just pushed the button, and his again. You could how this would be performed, but you could see him, pushing that. You could do his death being quite comic, as well as quite horrific, I suppose, if you like. But yes, indeed, the Doc Savage movie terrified me as a kid. Oh dear. Philip Jose Farmer has a good book on him. Really? Oh, that's excellent. Philip Jose Farmer's a guy I quite liked. I haven't read too much of him, but I read his Fabulous, the Riverworld series, and I adore it. Absolutely adore it. I think one of the best series in science fiction of all time, I think. Very Basil and Sybil. Oh dear, oh dear. Doc Savage is hilarious. It's funny how certain things can change over time, and it's not a serious film though, is it? It really isn't, but it goes well with the it works with the character, but the songs and stuff in it are nuts. And I can't remember the last time I downloaded it a wee while back there just to run through it again because I hadn't seen it in ages. I think the last time I saw Doc Savage, I was probably still at secondary school. Just sit down, eat your dinner, watching one of these films on the TV, and just watch it. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. I just but I don't know. Looking at it, I suppose, as an adult in this day and age, knowing a wee bit about Doc Savage's character and his impact on other things within science fiction, stuff like that. He's an interesting character, But as I said, very, very much the Buckaroo Banzai is Adventures Across the Eighth Dimension. It is in many ways it's an updating of Doc Savage, isn't it? It's but just look at the thing, his Palace of Solitude, his Brain Trust, all that. There's language from Doc Savage. It's in the popular consciousness, I suppose, if you see what I mean. Doc Savage, his apocalyptic life, written as if he was a real person. Aye, that sounds fun, Connor. That's by Philip Jose Farmer. I'm going to scribble that down. That's funny enough. I've read the Riverworld series twice. Philip Jose Farmer. If you chatted to me about him, I go, "Oh, he's great. Absolutely love his books." And I never ever. I suppose it's one of those things that things pop out of your mind, but I never ever see his books in a bookshop. And it's one of those things where you kind of always think, "Oh, I must pick something up." In this day and age, I suppose it's there's no excuse with the internet, but it's interesting who you still see on the shelves in bookshops and who you don't, if you know what I mean. And I'm always surprised. It's just popping into my head. I know he's a bunch of other books associated with the Riverworld series and stuff like that as well, but it's definitely one of the great. He's a good writer, and personally. It was Philip Jose Farmer's Riverworld series that introduced me to an awful lot of people that I ended up taking a real interest in. And all the characters are. Sorry, I'm just scribbling that down, Connor. That sounds right up my street. Doc Savage, his apocalyptic life. Wonder would that be something like? I don't know if you ever read what was it you call him? Is it Flashman? Have you ever read Flashman? Flashman's, what is he? Lord Flashman is the bully, isn't he? From what am I thinking of? Is it Flashman? Is the bully from Tom Brown's School Days? Is that it? And there's a set of books about him, kind of Napoleonic. Is it maybe that era sort of thing? Almost a bit sort of Sharp-esque, if you like. I read the first one. And he's kind of an unwitting hero. He's a villain originally, but he's those books were great. Riverworld is amazing. It is, and hang on, let me write this down. Sorry, Doc Savage, his apocalyptic life. I want to read that. If anybody's never seen the Doc Savage film, what year is that from? It's an old movie now. It is color. If you haven't seen it, it's great. Doc Savage, Matt, it's 1975. There you go. And I don't mean to take it too seriously. I can see other films. I can see a lot of films that have its. Doc Savage is the fictional character of the competent man hero type. First appeared in American pulp magazines during the 1930s and 1940s. Real name is Clark Savage Jr. Pardon me, and he's a polymathic scientist, explorer, detective, and warrior who rights wrongs and punishes evildoers. He was created by publisher Harry W. Ralston and editor John L. Nanovich at Street Smith Publications, with additional material contributed by the series' main writer Lester Dent. Doc Savage stories were published under the Kenneth Robeson name. The illustrations were by Walter Baumhofer, Paul Orban, Emery Clark, Modest Stein, and Robert G. Harris. It just says, sorry, I'm not going to read all of that there, but it just says in the 21st century, Doc Savage has remained a nostalgic icon in the US, referenced in novels and popular culture. Longtime Marvel Comics editor Stan Lee credited Doc Savage as being the forerunner to modern superheroes. Excuse me, but the film, if anybody hasn't seen it, check it out. It's a 1975 American action film, Ron Ely as Doc Savage. Pardon me, it was the last film completed by pioneering science fiction producer George Pal, who makes great movies. It was directed by Michael Anderson, who had previously directed another big budget adventure film, Around the World in 80 Days, 1956 Best Picture of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. But there you go, it's a 1975 movie. And I don't know, I don't take it seriously at all. But I kind of do, and it's just absolutely brilliant. It's very I don't know, I find it very cheesy, very funny. A really, really good bad film, if you see what I mean. But it's still quite a good film. Doc Savage, I still haven't written the full title of that down. His Apocalyptic Life. There we go. That sounds. Was it a good book, Connor? I take it you've read it yourself. The Glass That Moves Everything 6 inches to the left. Riverworld is amazing. Movie is great, but not the pilot. It's just a cackling maniac. It's just, it's just I just. I said I'm going to watch it again. I was doing my notes and I wasn't paying too much. I just kept looking up. Every few minutes or occasionally get like a comment, just laughing my head off at what I was looking at. Just, I must put that back. It was really good. Pardon me. ELT was better known for his work on Tarzan. Very good. Didn't know that. Are you reading it right now? Excellent. Eli was better known for his work. Very good, Connor. Let me know how it works out. If you think it's a good book, it sounds fun. As I said, get my big book out here where I scribble all sorts of things down that I'm trying to find. But yes, indeed. Oddly enough, we always talked about those two biographies a long time. No, it wasn't Philip Jose Farmer, but I was talking about the Lovecraft biography and the Robert E. Howard one that I'd read years ago. I wouldn't mind trying to track those down again as well. Noodles has been in with me all night, by the way, folks, and she hasn't. She's been as good as gold, but Holly's outside squeaking away with her toy. There you go. It's great. He says it's like 120 books distilled into one. Excellent. Yeah, that sounds fun. I'm enjoying the Lensman at the minute. They are very pulpy. Great stuff. Not everything has to be high literature, if you see what I mean. But there's some great stories, great books. Yes, indeed. Well, there we go, folks. Thank you very much for joining me as always. As I said, hopefully we're running a bit better now, and things will start going a little bit smoother. And I must have a listen to the playback on this video, because at some cost we've replaced the microphone, but a brand new one. We're just trying to figure out everything we can to do with the sound and video issues at the minute. But if it's not this, it's I've been reducing it all down to, if it's not this, it's probably my ISP or something to do with the electric grid. Sorry, I'm just gonna let Littles out here. There you go, Wheeler. Off you go. Oh, you love to walk so slowly, don't you? There we go. That's our middle zero. Joseph saying good. So, yeah, thank you, Joseph. I've really enjoyed this one. It was a good, fun chapter. Um, a few wee things to chat about. I thought a lot of subtext, a lot of good humor. I thought we see the plot advance a little bit, But it's good to be feeling a bit better, and it does wonders for your mood. And as I said, I really enjoy this when everything's going well and tickety boo. So definitely had a great time tonight, folks. Thank you very much for all your contributions, and as always, and look after yourselves. Connor saying, have a good one, folks, and yourself, Doc. Thank you very much, Connor. I'll say goodnight to everyone. Look after yourselves. Enjoy your science fiction, whatever way you're absorbing it. I'd love to find out a wee bit more. We'll have to do a wee sci-fi open night soon and see what we're all reading, what we're all listening to, and what we're watching. Sootpot says, peace, y'all. Peace out, folks. Take it easy. Look after yourselves, no matter where you are. It's a crazy old world, and be safe. And we'll see you at regular time from now on, Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT +1. So we're running on Thursdays at 10 o'clock from now on, pretty much permanently, hopefully. So that should try and make it a regular thing. Fingers crossed. Look after yourselves. Take it easy. See you real soon. Bye-bye. Do 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 ba dum ba 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 ba.